Japan's underworld. Mysterious, strict, and deeply rooted in tradition. For decades, the Yakuza were seen everywhere, in flashy cars, dark suits, and even in business meetings. But what happens when a Yakuza decides to walk away from that life? Can they really quit? And if they do, what kind of future awaits them? Let's dive into a world where loyalty, shame, and redemption collide. Leaving the Yakuza is not like quitting a job. It's a declaration that can change, or even end, a life. Members who decide to leave often face immense pressure from their oyabun, or boss, suspicion from rival gangs, and harsh discrimination from the rest of society. Some are expelled for breaking the rules. Others try to quietly disappear, hoping their past won't catch up to them. In recent years, the Japanese government has made it harder than ever for gangsters to operate. New anti-Yakuza laws have tightened the screws, forcing many out of the life simply because it's no longer sustainable. Once they're out, ex-Yakuza face a monumental problem. Society doesn't easily forgive or forget. They're often blacklisted from renting apartments, opening bank accounts, or finding any kind of legal, legitimate work. Some lose contact with their families completely, either by choice or because their loved ones are afraid. Others are constantly watched by the police, forever marked as suspicious. Even their own skin can betray them. Imagine trying to start fresh, to build a new life, but your tattoos, your criminal record, and your very name are all working against you. In Japan, the anti-gang ordinances, known as Boryokudan Haijojore, are incredibly strict. In many parts of the country, these laws prevent former members from doing things most of us take for granted, like signing a phone contract or getting a job in construction, for up to 5 years after they officially leave. For many, rehabilitation feels impossible. This suffocating environment pushes some into poverty, while others, out of sheer desperation, are forced back into underground work simply because no one else will hire them. It's a vicious cycle that's incredibly difficult to break, but not everyone stays trapped in that cycle. A small but growing number of former Yakuza are finding paths to redemption, often through community work, religion, or specialized social support programs. There are organizations in Japan, like the NPO Daiukai, dedicated to helping ex-gangsters reintegrate into society. They provide job training, counseling, and a support network. Some former members open small restaurants, others find steady work in construction, and a few even volunteer to visit schools, warning young people against joining gangs. Buddhist temples have also become sanctuaries, welcoming former Yakuza seeking peace and spiritual guidance. For them, it's a long, arduous process of rebuilding their identity, one honest day at a time. Several ex-members have bravely shared their stories publicly. These are men who once lived by a strict code of silence, now speaking out about regret, the trauma of prison, and the profound sense of loss. Some have become powerful advocates, explaining how they were drawn into the Yakuza as teenagers, desperately searching for a sense of belonging or family they couldn't find elsewhere. Others put it more simply, "I just wanted a normal life again." Their stories offer a rare glimpse into the human side of a world we usually only see in crime dramas, revealing the complex individuals behind the fearsome reputation. Even after leaving the organization, the Yakuza mentality is incredibly hard to erase. For years, these men lived by rigid hierarchies, absolute loyalty, and a constant threat of violence. In comparison, freedom can feel strange, chaotic, and even deeply lonely. Many struggle with guilt, post-traumatic stress disorder, or the persistent fear of revenge from their former associates. Some find it impossible to adapt to a peaceful society where conflicts are resolved with words, not fists. Yet, surprisingly, others discover a new kind of strength and humility, and a second chance at a meaningful life by helping others avoid the same destructive path they once walked. The landscape of the Yakuza in Japan is changing dramatically. The organization's population has been shrinking for years. Once boasting over 180,000 members, their numbers have now dwindled to fewer than 20,000, many of whom are elderly. The younger generation is far less interested in the old codes of loyalty and the violent lifestyle. Still, the legacy of the Yakuza continues to fascinate, perpetuated through their iconic tattoos, countless movies, and the enduring stories of honor and redemption. For some, leaving the Yakuza isn't an end. It's the beginning of a long journey to becoming truly free. Leaving the Yakuza means leaving behind power, fear, and a core part of one's identity. But for those who successfully make it out, It's a path toward redemption, achieved one small, courageous step at a time. What do you think? What would you do if your past followed you everywhere? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time for more stories from the unseen side of Japan. Tokyo, a city that tops the charts for safety, a sprawling metropolis of glowing neon and impeccable manners. But just beneath this polished surface, hidden in the shadows and whispers of the past, another world quietly breathes. A world defined by intricate rules, stunning full-body tattoos, and a code of silence. I'm talking, of course, about the Yakuza. The question is, in modern-day Tokyo, where could you actually encounter them? Is it even possible? Let's dive deep into the city's hidden corners to find out. First, let's get one thing straight. The Yakuza of today are not the gangsters you see in movies, swaggering down the street in flashy suits. The Japan of the 80s and 90s, where they openly controlled entire nightlife districts, owned countless bars, and even sponsored local festivals, is long gone. The turning point was a series of strict anti-gang laws passed in the 2010s, which made it incredibly difficult for organized crime groups to operate openly. These laws prevent them from opening bank accounts, signing contracts, or even renting apartments. As a result, their public presence has shrunk dramatically. They've been forced to adapt to become ghosts in their own city. Today, they keep a much lower profile, often blending in so well that you'd walk right past them without a second glance. They've gone from being overt power players to silent background figures. But that doesn't mean they've vanished completely. If you know where to look and what to look for, the faint traces of their once powerful world remain etched into the city's landscape. Let's start our journey in the most famous, most infamous entertainment district in all of Asia. Kabukichō, right in the heart of Shinjuku. This place is an electric, pulsating labyrinth of neon signs, towering host and hostess clubs, rowdy izakayas, and tiny atmospheric alleys like Golden Gai. It's a sensory overload, buzzing with an untamed energy that feels both thrilling and slightly dangerous. Historically, Kabukichō was undisputed Yakuza territory. Various groups managed businesses here, collected protection money from establishments, and settled disputes. It was their playground. Today, thanks to heavy police presence and the anti-gang laws, that overt control has been shattered. Most of the old guard are gone. However, it's an open secret that some behind-the-scenes connections still exist. You won't see men with missing fingers and elaborate tattoos strutting around. Instead, you might find quiet, well-dressed managers of certain businesses who just seem to know how everything in the area works, who to talk to, and more importantly, who not to cross. For tourists, Kabukichō is perfectly safe, but walking through its streets is a fascinating experience, a living reminder of Tokyo's grittier, darker roots that still linger just out of sight. Next stop, Roppongi. If Kabukichō was the wild heart of the underworld, Roppongi was its sophisticated, high-rolling business lounge. During Japan's bubble economy in the 1990s and into the early 2000s, this area was notorious for its exclusive high-end nightclubs, luxury cars lining the streets, and a very visible intersection of celebrities, politicians, and sometimes powerful organized crime figures. It was the place for big deals and bigger egos. Today, Roppongi has a much more international and polished vibe. It's filled with embassies, tech companies, and fine dining restaurants. The overt gangster element has been scrubbed clean, and yet the spirit of the old Roppongi persists in a different form. Some of Tokyo's old-school fixers and shadowy consultants still operate discreetly from the area's private clubs and quiet cafes. These aren't muscle-bound thugs. They are smooth operators who handle introductions, broker deals, and facilitate complex negotiations, all while maintaining a veneer of perfect legitimacy. It's the elegant, business-like face of Tokyo's modern underground. You could be having a drink next to one of them and never know it. And that, of course, is exactly the point. The real power is the power you never see. Now, let's venture away from the glitzy centers to the old-school neighborhoods of Shinagawa and Asakusa. Here, you'll find a completely different side of the Yakuza's history. These areas, with their traditional shopping streets, ancient temples, and deep-rooted local communities, were once home to classic Bakudo and Takiya families, the gamblers and street peddlers who were the historical ancestors of the modern Yakuza. For generations, these groups were deeply woven into the fabric of local life. They helped organize and provide security for the massive matsuri, or festivals, like Asakusa's famous Sanja Matsuri. They controlled local construction projects and acted as informal peacekeepers on the streets. Nowadays, most of these old families operate quietly, have gone legitimate, or have faded away entirely. But the memory of their role remains strong. If you sit down for a drink at a local bar and talk to some of the older residents, you might hear fascinating stories of those times, stories of the men who kept the peace and enforced order in their neighborhoods in their own particular way. It's a complex legacy, one that blurs the line between community service and crime. So, what does all this mean? The honest truth is that meeting a Yakuza in Tokyo today is not something you can just go out and do. In fact, it's something most Japanese people actively want to avoid, and for good reason. They deliberately stay out of the public eye, and law enforcement keeps them under constant, heavy surveillance. Their numbers have dwindled, and their power is a fraction of what it once was. But while their physical presence has faded, their influence on Japan's culture remains incredibly strong. You see it everywhere, in countless movies, popular manga and anime series, and of course, in the art of traditional Japanese tattooing, irizumi, which they made world famous. The modern Yakuza has become less of a tangible shadow and more of a powerful symbol, a living relic of Japan's complex history with concepts of honor, loyalty, crime, and survival against the odds. They represent a bygone era, a code of conduct that no longer fits in today's world. In the end, can you meet a Yakuza in Tokyo? Realistically, probably not. And let's be honest, that's a good thing for everyone. It's a testament to how safe the city has become. But their legend still walks these streets. You can feel it in the whispers of old-timers, in the plots of crime novels, and in the memories of a Tokyo that once was. Behind every quiet alley in Shinjuku and every glowing neon sign in Roppongi, a faint trace of that history still glows, a reminder of the city's hidden and fascinating other side. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into Tokyo's underground. See you next time!